Hey everyone, it's Sven from House Secrets. I wanted to show you guys something I've been working on the last week, I think, last couple of weeks, in between jobs, whenever some hours were available. Basically, it's a rewrite of something I've been showing on the forum before. I think I've posted 2 or 3 screenshots before of the prototypes. Um, it's something that's been missing from Fusion for quite a while, I think. It's the attribute editor I've been working on. Basically, it's well, what the spreadsheet does, but for every attribute, every input on a tool. So yeah, let me show you. I've created this wonderful masterpiece you see over here. And it has a couple of B-splines, and say I wanted to tweak the border width or the soft edge at once, give them all the same value, which right now is kind of hard to do in Fusion because you have to step through all these, and then, you know, we've all been there and do the scrolling or selecting or going there and switching the tabs if one of the tools still has a tab on image or somewhere else, which is kind of a pain in the ass to work like that, especially when you have a lot of roto splines or a lot of other tools that need to be tweaked at once, or if you want to have an overview of what actually what data goes in where or whatever. You get the point. So let me go over here and refresh. It loads in all the splines I've selected. I can deselect those now as well. And as you can see, it basically are all the inputs on the spline, with a couple of filtered out that you don't really want to touch because changing those will make Fusion explode. Right now there's a couple of others that you can't quite edit yet because I haven't figured out a way to do it properly yet, like the point data you can see over here. And it still shows the effect mask, which you don't want to touch because these are basically in outputs of other tools. But what does work are booleans, integers, and floats, which is what I've been using this for. And I know what to touch and what not to touch to prevent Fusion from exploding. So let me show you. Say I wanted to tweak the border width of all these to 0.1. As you can see, I can do that. And I want to tweak the soft edge of all these as well. There you go. It has a couple of other nice features built in already, but these really need to be rewritten as well, because right now columns, each attribute with the same name, parameter name, say level or filter or whatever, get the same item delegate assigned. So basically telling you when you double click it to edit it, what it should play, what kind of editor it should place. And right now it's determined by column. And the problem with that is that some tools share attribute names but are not the same parameters. So I'm probably gonna switch everything over with the exception of the combo boxes to string inputs. So you can also do say expressions, like you can put an equal sign or a plus sign to add values, or divide or multiply the values. Another feature that is already built in, or at least partially, because it doesn't do multi-editing yet, is tying some input to another input by expression. So basically if I do this, it will, I need to refresh this, I haven't built that in yet. You can see it changes color, and that means that B-spline 7's level has been tied to B-spline 1's level. So if I go to 7, you can see it created a expression. The next step is to do this multi-selected, but right now it doesn't do that yet. So yeah, that's one of the extra features I'm going to build in. Let me just... some things it does as well already is it checks for the max and min input values that are allowed on an attribute or parameter. Something the Python itself doesn't do. So I can, before this, I could say put motion blur on 10, even though it's a Boolean, which should only go from 0 to 1. For some reason, the Python implementation allows this, which kind of allows you to break Fusion really, really bad. Even when it doesn't show up at first, when you do an undo somewhere while you're working and you tweak something with a value that wasn't allowed, it won't tell you right away. So when you do an undo somewhere down the road, it might explode. Another big problem this still has is that the inputs, the tools, are put into a dictionary when you request all the data, and it, for some reason, the garbage collector doesn't pick this up when I delete these. So when you're doing a lot of tools at once and you keep refreshing a lot, you're basically getting a memory leak. It doesn't release, I think it doesn't release the connections to Fusion for some reason. So I'm still working on that as well. Another thing it does already is animation. It shows you things that are animated. Say I want to animate this. Put a keyframe here, put a keyframe there. It shows you where the keyframe is. It doesn't right now because it's using cache data. I'm caching the attributes of everything, of all inputs, because those are really slow to read, and you don't want to do that with every refresh of the interface. It already is pretty slow to scroll around because it has to fill the data, but once you're in here, selection everything is pretty fast because it only updates these little parts of the interface. Qt does it under the hood quite nicely. So I need to do a refresh, and you can see it's showing you the keyframes nicely. If I go to my next keyframe, step over here, it'll show the color. You can turn this off. It speeds up drawing a bit, but not enough on the fast card, not enough to keep it off. So there's that. There's another thing. The data that goes in here is tied to basically it's using a model view. The data that goes in here basically is tied to a model and the view. And I'm using the sort filter Proxima model of Qt, so I can basically filter on columns. And I've built multi filtering as well, so I can probably, yeah, you see. For some, okay, they don't have red. Width, they probably have a width, yeah, and they have a height. So that's possible as well already. Now I'm thinking about releasing it maybe end this weekend or maybe somewhere next week, depending on how much I can clean it up, so it's readable by others, just to get your input. Most of the stuff already works the way I wanted it to, basically, which was tweaking float and integer values for multiple selections at once. But it has the potential to be a lot more, so I'm thinking about just throwing it out there and see what you guys can come up with suggestion-wise. So yeah.